Oh, thanks man, appreciate that. So at the moment I'm just hand delivering some cancellation letters to cabins. It's the last port day on the cruise in Piraeus, or Athens. It's going to be sea day next, then back to Malta. And once again we try to give a certain amount of notice before cancelling a tour. Of course, it's usually below minimum that we usually cancel tours, but we try to give it as far in advance as possible, mainly because of terms and conditions when you're booking. Say that we give 48 hours. If you're outside of 48 hours when trying to cancel a tour yourself, we do charge a 10% cancellation fee. So if a ticket is £50 for an adult, if then they decide that they want to get rid of that particular adult ticket, if it's £50 for an adult, then it would be £5 essentially as a fee. But every time we do something like this, you need to be able to abide by those rules, so the system that we use automatically charges that essentially, so there's nothing we can really do about it. Just 1 second, make sure I've got the right cabin. So yeah, so we give 48 hours notice, over 48 hours notice, because usually when people come down to cancel, if it's outside of 48 hours, we can usually cancel with a 10% fee, of course, so it's able to be cancelled. But if it's within 48 hours, so for example, if there's the letter in 2 days' time, if it's within 2 days of the if it's within 2 days of the port, we can no longer cancel it, because we've essentially can't change things like that because we've already paid for the seats. So we send a manifest up to the agent, so they're very aware of the numbers, so then they use suppliers to be able to organise the tours. So we invariably can't really cancel unless we're changing it to a different tour with the same tour company. So essentially that's the bread and butter anyway of how it works. So we have, unfortunately, those guidelines and processes in place just because we have to pay for the seats for that manifest. So changing a tour with the same agent, we can do that, that's not a problem because we've already paid for the seats. So if they need to change it to something else, fair enough, but to outright cancel it, unfortunately not, because we've already paid for the seats. So within 48 hours, it's essentially we can let the tour operator know that you're not turning up, but then we can't provide a refund for that. So it is in our terms and conditions. I've gone through it myself and I've given it a good look at, so you'll be surprised how many people, I mean, for example, if you have a new phone and you're accepting terms and conditions for using that phone, nobody actually looked at the terms and conditions, which I find obviously quite funny, because even I do the same. I don't look at the terms and conditions either, but especially when it's part of your job, you do tend to look at the terms and conditions just to know kind of what you're selling and what you're not selling. Okay. 3. So yeah, I'll take these around the cabins, so at least then they've got some time over the next 48 hours to book another excursion if they want to. But this is kind of the bread and butter of the job as well. So I'll do all this and then it'll be afternoon dispatch later on. So there's a lot of hand delivering of letters. We tend to hand deliver both time changes. Hello. We tend to hand deliver time changes. 324. 624. Yeah, so we hand deliver time changes, we hand deliver cancellations, and that's about it. But any advisories or anything like that, then we tend to send it to housekeeping just because it doesn't require specific demand to be sent straight to them. So if it's anything like a time change for a tour or a cancellation for a tour, they need to be hand delivered to all the cabins, which can be a bit annoying sometimes when you've got to work to a particular time frame, but nonetheless it still gets done. But anyway, I'm going to continue with these. I thought it'd be worthwhile at least highlighting for anybody that does decide to take a trip on board, they then realise that there are terms and conditions that we have to abide by. So it's, I don't know, maybe it might be something of use to people that end up booking future cruises themselves, because it is something to think about, especially if you're booking tours. But also back home you can cancel without a penalty once you come on board, because you've kept that seat for a certain amount of time. That's why we charge the 10%, because you've essentially kept that seat for a certain amount of time when somebody else could have booked that same seat, if that makes sense. That's another thing to keep in mind. We have to keep all this in mind, especially when you deal with it every single day, where people come on board and they haven't paid attention or they haven't read the fine print in a lot of these terms and conditions, and they don't understand the processes. And it's that thing of, well, you have to understand the processes to understand why we do what we do. So yeah, another thing to keep in mind. I'll leave it here otherwise, and I'll see you on the flip side.